Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Stunt Fight TV Live. Um, we are going to do further breakdowns of a Japanese sword fight scene that we did. Excuse me. But before we start, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Philippe Deseck, and I am a stunt actor, now assistant stunt coordinator. And I've been working in the film industry for about 20 plus years. I've created an online business where I teach actors and also stunt performers, but mainly actors, on how to um, do their own action sequences in films. So how can they feel most comfortable and most adequate in doing their own action sequences? So I've been getting a lot of demands lately of actors asking me if they can assist them into, look, I want to be an action hero. How can I perform my own action? So this is what I love. This is my passion. And what I also like to do is just to show people a bit of an insight on the filming side of things, because performance and acting, they both kind of go hand in hand. So what we've done lately at certain training, is to recreate action sequences out of movies. And in my last episode 17, I just quickly showed you a segment that we did. It was a Japanese fight sorting scene that one of our amazing stunt performers, Rumi, came up with. And without further ado, I'll just show you the clip just one more time, just to refresh your memory. So that, and then we'll further break down the action sequence. Excellent. So this is actually a scene that we broke down, and the whole thing is not entirely perfect. There's one little segment where the timing is just a little bit off, as you can see here. There, that little section here, the timing was just a little bit off, and I tried to fix it in the editing, but yeah, I couldn't really do much about it, because if I fixed in editing, the movements would have looked a little bit odd. But anyway, that just goes to show you that recreating a scene, there's quite a bit involved. There's a lot involved. So what I want to do now is just to show you the steps that we took in order to recreate the scene. So first of all, we have, choosing the right clip. So when you do want to recreate a scene, you have to choose the right clip. So Rumi came up with a whole heap of clips, and we then chose, okay, this is a clip that we want to reproduce because of the time we had. So you had to understand that we only had a limited time to shoot it. We have to look at the sequence, at the clip. Can we reproduce that in the amount of time that we had? And also, is there wire work involved? Can we reproduce the wire work? Is it very complex? How many people do we need, etc. So that little clip was probably the most suitable for what we had. So choosing the right clip is really important. Secondly, we have analyzing the segment. So analyzing segment is a huge step in this whole process, because we got to look at the choreography. Are we able to do the choreography? Are the performers able to reproduce the choreography and to imitate what they're doing, which is really important. Then number two, we have camera angles and camera movement, which is again really important. Sometimes either are really complex moves or something that we can't reproduce, then we kind of defeating the purpose, and then we've got to find a different clip where the camera moves are more suitable for what we need to do and how we can reproduce them. Then we have the framing. Framing is really important. So, and it's a really good exercise. Sometimes a really hard exercise, because people don't always see the framing, and they don't always see what they're doing. So a little trick that I do is, when I look at a clip, or even when I look through the eyepiece of the camera, I use my left eye and I use my right eye, and I swap between the two because different eyes see different things within the frame. So one eye can better see the movement, and the other eye can probably better see the framing. But I use that as a kind of an exercise, and I really pay attention on what I'm looking at. Next, we have lenses. So what lenses did they use? And again, did they use a wide lens for certain shots? Did they use a zoom lens? And for certain segments, and also why did they choose to use a certain lens for certain scene? And you can start trying to figure out why they've done certain things, because as maybe you do not know, the lenses tell a story as well. So in what part of the story did they do a lens change, and why exactly did they do a lens change at that particular moment of the story? What are they trying to say, and how are they trying to enhance the story with the type of lens that they're using, which is actually a really good exercise to do. Then we looked at the timing. So timing of the movements is really important, and that we work on in rehearsals. And again, it's a really, really tricky thing. So we need to constantly look at the clip over and over again, look at the timing and look at the beats, because fighting choreography, it's all about rhythm and timing. And that's why, and I've said this before, usually dancers and gymnasts kind of make better on-screen fighters, because they have a sense of rhythm, they have a sense of timing, they have a sense of choreography, and that is something that some martial artists kind of miss and lack in. But working on your timing, working on your choreography, and just recently at stunt training, I kind of introduced Billy Blanks to the training, and it was excellent. I mean, we had a really good time doing Billy Blanks. If you don't know, you can look at Billy Blanks and his training that he does with Thai bow. And I think Thai bow is a great way of introducing people to stunt fighting, because it's doing fight movements to music and changing choreography constant. And that's what we do, in the real world when we do fighting stuff. It's all about choreography, timing, movement, and changing things. So next we have the style of the film. So you have to look at the style of the film as in, did they shoot everything in one master shot, or do they use sequential shooting? So I've done a few segments on that, and Hollywood likes to use master shots and then cut in for certain segments, whereas Asia like to use all segments. So it's sequential, what we call sequential shooting. So every segment gets shot separately, and then that gets stuck together in the editing segment. So your style of shooting will also reflect your style of performance and how you perform for the segment, because when you perform for master shots, you were performing slightly different than if you had to perform for sequential shooting. So all things to take into consideration. Then, is there any wire work involved? And in this segment, there was a bit of wire work involved, and it was quite tricky because the wire work that they did, even though it looks quite simple, they if you look at the segment again, they go from a wide shot tracking into a closer shot of the performers, and then the performers jumps out of frame. So it looked like they've done it on a wire, but then in an open space, and if they did use wires for that shot, then they would have big cranes, overhead cranes, to assist the performer in performing in wires, coming from a wide shot to a tighter shot. But how we covered it in this one is that we came in from a wide shot without the wire work, and as we came in, we had the performer jump out of frame as high as she could. So it was a little bit tricky, but I think we got away with it. Next, visual effects. Are there any visual effects in the shot? And if there are visual effects, is it something that we can reproduce? Some of us are, really good at After Effects. I'm kind of okay as After Effects. I'm not an expert, but I can do a few really basic things and get away with a few stuff. So something else to be taken into consideration. Next, we have costumes. We want to try and be as genuine as possible when we do recreate the scene. So costumes is a big one as well. Next, we have shot list and storyboarding. So some directors like to work with storyboards. Some directors do not like to work with storyboards. I think Yuen Woo-ping doesn't really use storyboards. And we all have a different way of working, etc. I do a bit of both. What I like to do, I like to storyboard the action sequence in Premiere. And I'll show you a clip of what I've done with this specific clip with the Japanese sword fight scene, and just to give you a bit of an idea of how I broke it down for myself. Hello everyone. So when it comes to storyboarding and making a shot list, what I like to do is I like to cut the whole action scene into different segments. So I'll quickly show you a demonstration. So here I've got the first scene, which I have already done. So I've put it in Premiere, and I will go to the next scene, which is this one here. So I'll go to the first frame, my in point, and I'll go to the last frame, put an out point, and I'll put that on the timeline. And I'll just take about 5 copies of the same and drag them to my timeline. So that will give me a bit of an idea of every scene, and I will repeat those segments over and over again just to try and get into my head, like the camera movements, the framing, and everything that's involved. So let's take another one where there's the movement. Let's go a bit further where there's a bit of an action sequence, so you can get what I mean. Okay, let's go to the scene here. So I'll take the first frame, for instance. And I'll go to the last frame, put my out point, and then I'll do about 5 copies of the same. And then I'll keep repeating that for all the scenes until I have everything done. So it's just, for me, it's just a way of memorizing what every segment is, what every shot is. And then once that's done, I will do a version where I will take that same scene and I will just slow it down. So I'll quickly show you. So speed and duration, and I'll slow it down to about 35%. And I'll do that for every segment again. So I'll slow down every segment. So again, that will then give me a good memory visual cue. And once that's done, I'll take the whole segment. It's a little bit too much. So this is a whole segment here, I'll extend it a little bit more. And I'll slow that whole segment down as well to about 35%. Cool. And then once everything's done, I'll make separate clips of everything. And then again, that gives me kind of a visual aid on what they've done, and also the camera movements, and I'll try and put everything into perspective, what they've done in every scene. So that's one way that I do just to help myself with the storyboarding or the shot list that I need to do. And once everything's done, I put it on a on the iPad, or I keep it on the computer, and then I just do a reference. So every shot we do, I make a reference. And it's also a good visual cue for other people, because then they can actually visualize as well when you show to them. This is the segment we're doing. Then they have an idea that this is a segment we're doing, and when they see it in slow motion, it's a better cue for them to understand exactly what needs to be done, also as a performance-wise, and also for the rigging team and everything. So they have a better visual on what. And then I'll do a segment. Excellent. So that's how I kind of do it in this way. Obviously, I know people take actual pictures of the first and the last scene and turn it into a storyboard that way. But we all have a different way of working, and to me, I find that way actually really helps me. So hopefully that will help you as well. Excellent. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of how I put my storyboard together. And like I said, no, to me it's a good, really visual. We all learn things in a different way, but I'm a visual person, and so for me it really helps, and maybe to show other people on the team as well, look, this is what we're doing and this is what we're striving for. And like I said, the more I look at the clips, the more I look at all the different aspects of movement, framing, lenses, and I kind of try and memorize as much as I can for when I do the scene. So, shooting day. On the shooting day, we have everyone's come together, the ring teams come together, we're all set to shoot, you know. So then what we do before we actually start shooting is to figure out what shots are we going to do first. And if there is, so the order of shots. So order of shots to me is really important. So we figure out what are we going to do first. And as you see, there's a bit of wire work involved. So we can say, okay, we'll do all the wire work shots first. So I take out in the editing, I take out all my wire shots and says, okay, this is the first shots that we are going to do. And then if there's, with the wire work that's involved, I'll try and figure out, is there a way that I can hide some of the wires in camera? And the way you do that is through slightly overexposing footage or with lighting. And but I'll do another segment on that, because that's another whole other story on how to try and remove wire work, but do it in camera first, so that when you do it in post, you're not stuck with a massive job at hand. And then we have VFX. Now, is there any VFX involved, and what shots do we need to do that are VFX heavy, and how can we best manipulate the shots so that we can makes it easy in the editing to work with the VFX. So what I did as well is I've bought a green screen, a pop-up green screen, which I sometimes use just to facilitate some of the shots, because when you have a clean background, it's a lot easier to work with VFX. And at training, we're lucky to have plain walls. So when we do wire work, we kind of angle it in such a way that the wires are against the plain wall. So when it does come to editing the wires out, it is a lot easier. Excellent. So why is all of this important? Well, it's an eye-opener when you start to recreate action sequences from films, because it gives you a really good perspective on what they have done and what needs doing, not just from a performance point of view, but also from a filmmaker's point of view. And you learn so much. And a lot of the clips that we see are usually really fast, especially the Hong Kong stuff. There's really fast cuts, a lot of fast things that are happening, and you miss out on a lot of things on how the framing is, movements of camera, and there's a lot of little subtle things that happen within the action sequence that you normally just wouldn't miss out. So by dissecting the whole segment, breaking it all up into little pieces and looking at every segment with a different eye gives you a really good perspective on how they put the whole sequence together. Excellent. So hopefully you've learned quite a bit in this segment, and I will do some more breakdowns of other action sequences that we did at training, which I'm really excited about. So again, thank you so much again for listening to my little segment. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I'll be happy to help any which way that I can. Like I mentioned, I'll be doing a launch pretty shortly for my online course for actors, teaching them on how to perform their own action on set and how for them to be proficient in stunt fighting, which I'm really excited about. So thank you very much again. If you have any questions, like I said, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I'll be happy to help. And I will see you in my next segment. Thank you very much, guys, and have a great day.